Hello everyone, this is R2567 back with another episode of Flowers Summer. This will be a redo episode because I was working on something and it kind of botched recording. So yeah, that happened. I don't know if you follow the Patreon at all, but if you do, there's something there you might want to see if you have the money to put in. If not, don't worry about it, you'll be seeing it next week. Depending on if it holds. Project 60's in final status. And this project is go. And there you have it. I don't know if it's astigmatism or farsightedness, but what I do know is that we can't trust it when she says they were all there. Feeling her haughty eyes on me? No, that's not fair. Right now they indicate only desire for the truth. I wheel away from the platform and back toward everyone.
目を細めていた？それじゃ思い違いをしていたってこと？
Her eyesight? She was squinting? And so she made a mistake?
本人は嘘をついていたとは思っちゃいない。こいつは本当にそう思っていたんだ。
She didn't think she was lying. She really thought she saw them. After my little monologue, a long silence descends on the chapel. After a while...
朝、確かにいたという発言が覆るのだとしたら...
So if it's no longer true that rabbits were there in the morning...
もう、誰が直接の犯人だとかは調べられないってことさ。
Then we have no way of finding out who's directly culpable.
それは...
That's...
その方がいいだろ。わかるよな、委員長。
Isn't it better this way? You understand, don't you, Prez? Catching my meaning, she nods, despite looking like she's just been into a lemon.
小ウサギを消してしまう原因を作った犯人はわからないままの方がいい。
Better off not knowing who created the conditions that led to the rabbits going missing. Even if it was an accident, who could bear the guilt of being solely responsible for the possibility of their deaths?
だから、全員の責任として罪を薄めればいい。
That's why it's better to dilute the guilt by making it everyone's fault. Having sensed my intentions, the President and Sister Basquate nod, their eyes downturned. I let a short deep sigh, relieved that this is troublesome business finally over, but then...
小ウサギ、死んじゃったのかな？
I wonder if they're dead. A whisper echoes throughout the quiet chapel.
いちごさん。
Ichigo-san. Words spoken out of guilt. They appear at the heart of every person there. They're tiny infant creatures, logically speaking.
お前は心配性だな。
You're a worrywart. Huh?
動物もののテレビとかで見たことないのかよ。草食動物は敵に狙われやすいから、生後すぐ独り立ちするんだよ。
Have you never watched a nature documentary? Since herbivores are so vulnerable to predators, they can fend for themselves almost as soon as they're born.
そうじゃないと、野生では生きられないんだ。わかる？
If they could, they'd never survive in the wild. Understand?
そうなのですか。
Is that true?
おうよ。世話してたんだから知ってたっての。高崎が首っ引きで飼育マニュアル読んでただろ。本好きとしては、私も熟読したからな。
It sure is. I know because I was looking after them. Takasaki was constantly referencing the care manual, and so, being an avid reader, I gave it a good look too.
そうなんだ。それじゃ。
You see, then...
ああ。生後10日もすれば離乳もするし、それに飼育小屋の近くは草もいっぱい生えてるだろ。今は夏場だから食い物には困らねえよ。
They're weaned within 10 days of birth, and there's lots of grass around the pen, isn't there? It's summertime, so they won't want for food.
案外狭い小屋暮らしよりのびのびやってるかもしれないぜ。
In fact, they might be enjoying themselves more than if they were cooped up in the pen.
よかった。
Thank goodness. The moment someone raises their voice, the heavy mood is dispelled like clouds breaking. The Sasaki sisters look at one another in relief, while the president claps her hands together and mutters a prayer. Mr. Basquet also seems to be offering up a prayer, her eyes shut.
白羽。
Shirahane. I've been thinking that my bookworm buddy must have been deeply upset by the baby rabbit's disappearance.
ありがとう。
Thank you. They're faint, but I hear the words clearly. Feeling my face flush for some reason, I change the direction of my wheelchair. And my eyes meet those of my Amate partner who's gazing at me in silence.
黙ってろ。
Don't say anything. She's never been able to pick up on social cues. At my word, she averts her gaze and looks up at the matriarch on the cross. Martyr on the cross. Wait, I'm tired. It's a long day. In the words of the Russian playwright Anton Chekhov, if you say in the first chapter that there's a rifle hanging on the wall, in the second or third chapter it absolutely must go off. It's a dramatic principle that means you mustn't have any unnecessary or irrelevant elements to your story. Okay, it's Chekhov's gun. I follow after the girl in my wheelchair, quite aware that my actions are basically pointless. According to Chekhov, if you say in the first chapter that there is a rifle hanging on the wall, in the second or third chapter, it absolutely must go off. That is how it goes. The case of the disappearing bunnies has been resolved, but some mysteries still remain. The issues I was hoping to settle have all been settled, and any misunderstandings cleared up. So this is...
自分に対する。いや、動かした舞台に対するけじめってやつかね。
What? Is it about resolving my own issues, or taking responsibility for the fallout? I don't really know who or what I'm doing this for. I just know that I want to interrogate the girl who slipped out of the dormitory and is now walking along ahead of me. I want to ask her the whereabouts of the gun. I continue trailing her, making sure to keep my distance while tailing, trailing, whichever one, we're following. I don't care the wording, we're following her into the woods. Let's go. As I expected, she makes her way not toward the school, but along the little path leading over to town. Where does a wise man hide a leaf? In the forest. But hanging somewhere out of sight is usually best, of course. As I watch her walking along, I think to myself about why I'm doing this. I originally deduced that the rabbit's disappearance stemmed from an error on everyone's part. That was a bluff. It was a conclusion I landed on so that everyone might share the pain equally. The real reason... the truth had come to me thanks to a niggling doubt that kept tugging at the corners of my mind. All my suspicions had eventually coalesced into a clear image of what really happened. The reason behind the disappearance of the rabbits... Now, as you can see, I've already done this part. Last episode, I did mention my notes were helping me after the game over. Someone put every chapter's interrogation into a notepad file, different notepad file for each chapter. And they gave me the notepad in a zip file. If I get stuck, I can open that up after I get game over. And there's usually a password that's tied to it. Either a clue to what I was supposed to do or, you know. the last chapter, the password for was ill rabbits. So not only was ill rabbits a clue for one of the things in here that I had right, but the answers were in the notepad set. And it does say the rabbits had fallen ill was the correct choice here. So yeah, I am still blind. I just have a little notepad if I get stuck on a thinking section or not game overing all episode. Right, working from that basis, I can follow the thread of logic. The motive is still unclear, but it works as a reason for her to hide the rabbits. Yes, her. Who is the culprit behind the rabbit's disappearance? Right here. The image in my head becomes crystal clear. I have to ask her why she did it. I see her cutting down a side path, as I'd expected, and I push my chair forward to turn off after her. She's standing by the trunk of some giant tree. Gazing down at its roots, dipped in the rays of the setting sun, her expression looked just as annoyed as ever. But she's not straining her eyes. It's like she's puzzled and irritated at herself for what she's doing, confused of her own emotions. Takasaki. I call out her name and her eyes narrowly softly. Bleh. I call out her name and her eyes narrow softly like she's meeting an old friend. So I'm starting to get a little hungry. That's how long I've been doing these sessions for today. No, that's just sentiment talking. I make my way toward her, navigating the uneven ground with care. I've come to collect the gun, I declare. What are you talking about?
それこそこっちの話ってやつか。まあなんだ、座りが悪いからさ、なんであんな真似をしたのか聞きに来たんだよ。
Oh, I guess I didn't get that into that with you. Well, whatever. I can't let it go yet. I came to ask why you did what you did. Standing there next to the tree, Takasaki doesn't respond. She stares intently at me, as though trying to read my intentions from the look on my face.
ここに私がいる時点でわかるだろ。お前がさらった小ウサギの件だよ。
You must know why I'm here. It's about the baby rabbits you took.
あの話は済んだことでしょ？
That's already over.
ああ、対外的にはな。あの結末は私が望んだことだ。でも、真相ってやつも明かしておかないと座りが悪い。
Yeah, ostensibly, that conclusion was the one I wanted, but it won't sit right with me until I've uncovered the actual truth.
なあ、高崎。いなくなった2羽の子ウサギはもう亡くなっているんだろ。
So, Takasaki, two baby rabbits that disappeared are already dead, aren't they? She doesn't seem to want to talk about the incident. Assuming it's all finished with, she remains silent as I bring us back to the parts that don't add up. To Chekhov's gun.
クラスメイトらへ話した。外に出した干し草に紛れて子ウサギが逃げてしまったってのはデタラメだ。
What I said to our classmates about the rabbits getting mixed in with the hay that was taken outside and running away, that was total BS.
だとすると、いついなくなったかってことがやっぱり気になるよな。
So I'm curious about when they actually disappeared.
正直いつ消えたかなんて確かなことはわからない。でもな、頭の中の付箋をたぐっていった結果。
Honestly, I don't have a clue when they went missing, but after putting together the pieces in my head, one thing has stuck out to me. I stroked my hand over the cover of the book sitting in my lap, illuminated by the light of the westerly sun.
私たちが疑われることとなってから、学院内に何か手がかりになるものはないか探した。そこでくしゃみを聞いた。ウサギのだ。
After we came under suspicion, I searched the school to see if I could find any clues. I heard a sneeze. A rabbit sneeze.
飼ったことはないから、初めはそんなこともあるんだなと思っていたが、とある示唆を得た。
Since I've never kept rabbits before, at first I was surprised that they could sneeze at all. But then I found a hint. I hold up the book to show her. It's the animal care manual she constantly had on hand.
ウサギのくしゃみについてだがな。スナッフルという症状の項目でこうあったよ。パスツレラという細菌による感染症。
It says this about sneezing, under the entry on snuffling, an infection caused by the Pastorella bacteria.
副鼻腔に感染すればくしゃみを起こし、内耳に感染すれば遮形を起こす。さらに内臓に感染すれば死に至るような病態を示す。
If it infects the paranasal sinuses, it causes sneezing. If it infects the inner ear, it causes torticollis. And if it infects the internal organs, it can be fatal. Takasaki shows no sign of emotion as I read out the contents of the book. I place it back down on my knees and let out a quiet, lengthy sigh.
生体なら元気になれば症状が治まることはあるらしいが、老体や子ウサギのような幼体ならどうだ。こいつは感染症だ。なあ、高崎。
It seems like the adult rabbits can recover and their symptoms clear. But how about the old and the young? We're talking about an infectious disease here. Hey,
お
Takasaki.
前、消失の前日に子ウサギが亡くなっていたのを見つけて、埋葬したんだろ。
The day before the disappearance, you discovered that the babies had died, and you buried them, didn't you? My Ante partner maintains her silence even in the face of this charge. It's like she thinks that if she just keeps quiet, everything will resolve itself.
今思えば、くしゃみをしだした親ウサギと子ウサギを離して隔離していたし。
In hindsight, we should have separated the babies from the sneezing adults and quarantined them.
バスキア教諭。
Sister Best, wait.
あ？
Huh?
バスキア教諭の件はどうなったの？あの人が怪しいという噂もあったじゃない。
What happened with Sister Pasquate? Wasn't there a rumor that she was acting suspiciously? I figured that she'd ask me about that. Actually, I thought she'd bring it up in the chapel when I went over our classmates.
さすがに面と向かって担当教諭が怪しいなんて言えなかっただけだろうが。
Perhaps the only reason she didn't was because she couldn't say that directly to a teacher's face that they were under suspicion. Of course, I did look into the issue with Sister Besquate. The result of my investigation?
あまり面白い話じゃないんだがね。
It's not a very interesting story.
へえ、どんなつまらない話なのかしら。
Oh, I'm fine with a boring story. After I'd heard about the incident from the twins, I'd immediately gone to verify it with my own eyes. The rooms that the sisters live in seemed pretty ancient compared to ours. The lock was old and easy to open.
呆れた。勝手に入ったの？泥棒みたいに。
I can't believe you broke in! Like a thief!
雑貨屋に置いてある金庫の錠前のようなチャチな作りだったからな。楽勝だったよ。
The lock was shoddily made. The kind you find on a safe in a neighborhood grocery store. It was easy peasy. My brief obsession with lockpicking paid off. Guess it's good to find a practical use for your hobbies. Yes, M-O-N.
部屋の中に踏み入ってすぐ部屋に招きたがらない理由ってやつが分かったよ。
As soon as I stepped into the room, I understood why she didn't want to invite anyone in there.
羊でも飼っていたわけ？
Was she actually keeping a sheep? Takasaki must have heard the rumor about the bleeding sound too. But I shake my head and tell her it was probably just that she was embarrassed.
何が？
Embarrassed about what?
そのこいつはプライベートなことだ。他言無用だぞ。
Well, it's pretty personal. You can't tell anyone.
問答無用で踏みにじっているあなたに言われたくないけど、黙っているわ。
I'm not sure I like being told that by someone with zero qualms about breaking and entering, but I won't say a word. Takasaki's expression doesn't change when I tell her how the whole assistant Basquate's room was filled with teddy bears.
なんですって？
What?
何度も言わせるの。ま、年齢のことを考えると招いてバレるのも恥ずかしかったんだろうよ。それと羊の鳴き声は。
Don't make me say it again. Anyway, given her age, she must have been embarrassed to have anyone discover it, and that bleeding was... Yes, bleeding isn't... Ah!
グローラー。
A growler? I'm relieved to hear that she already knows what that is, so I don't have to explain.
はあ、なんでか知らないが、熊のくせにこう体を傾けると羊の声で鳴くんだよな。つい落とした時に泣かれたんで肝を冷やしたぜ。
Yeah, I don't know why, but she has a bear that makes noise like a sheep when you turn it on its side. It scared the living daylights out of me when I accidentally knocked the thing over. To be honest, it had come as a real shock to me. I had no idea what a growler was. Now I think about it, I don't ever recall having received a teddy bear. Oh.
とにかく、バスキア教諭の疑いは、お前の言うつまらない話ってやつだったよ。
At any rate, like you said, it turned out to be a boring story.
ま、私から言わせれば、変わって見える事件も偶然が積み重なってそう見えているだけ。
If you ask me, incidents that initially seemed really bizarre only looked that way thanks to the piling up of a handful of coincidences.
一つ一つ明かしてみたら、そりゃつまらない話になるだろうさ。でだ。
Reveal them one by one, and they all turn out to be very boring stories, so... I give her an opening. Surely now she'll tell me. Takasaki narrows her eyes, not in annoyance, but thanks to the weakness of her sight, and draws her gaze back to the roots of the tree.
スイートピーか。たむけの花だな。花言葉はお前らしいが。
Sweet pea, huh? Flowers for saying goodbye. It's just like you know the language of flowers.
花言葉？
The language of flowers? It's to know the language of flowers, you ding-dong. She repeats the words back to me, and I can't help but laugh. Seems like she doesn't know what I'm talking about. My cat-like smile scares small creatures. For a moment, Takasaki's eyes show a timidity. For a moment, Takasaki's eyes show timidity. For a moment, Takasaki's eyes show timidity more befitting a girl her age, but it's immediately replaced with her usual expressionless look.
あなたの言う通りよ。
It's like you said.
そうか。ここに眠っているんだな。
I see, so they're sleeping here. And I'm making a lot more mistakes on take 2 than I did in take 1. Ugh. For a moment, I lower my head in silent prayer at the base of the towering tree. I don't believe in God, but perhaps I should show a little flexibility in this case.
で、訳を話してもらえるか。本当にパトリック・ベイトマンになっちまったわけじゃないだろ。
So, will you tell me what happened? You really didn't do a Patrick Bateman, did
だ
you?
からよ、
It was because...
何？聞こえないぞ。
What's that? I can't hear you.
白羽さんを悲しませたくなかったからよ。
It's because I don't want Shirahane-san to be upset.
お前。
You. She's gotta reproduce an explanation about as far removed from the ones I'd come up with as can be. She's claiming she didn't want to upset Shirahane? By the way, if you haven't seen the movie American Psycho, you wouldn't know who Patrick Bateman is.
そんなにおかしいかしら。
Isn't it that strange?
そりゃそうだろう。お前人のことなんざどうだっていいってやつじゃないかよ。
It is! I thought you didn't care about other people.
ええ、そうね。間違ってないわ。でもね、私だって罪悪感くらいは受けるのよ。
You're right, I don't. But even I feel guilt. In other words, I am human after all. So, she's definitely human. And definitely not Dancer. If I need to explain that one, oh.
聖堂の聖書の時間の時、やめちまった高坂真由里を訪ねたことか。
Is this because of that time you grilled her about Mayuri Kusaka during Bible study?
今でも何が悪いかはわからない。どんなに親しくても同級生がいなくなったくらいのことだし。でも
I still don't understand what I did wrong. No matter how close they were, it was just a classmate leaving at the end of the day, but... The tautness suddenly dissolves from her features and her brows furrow.
白羽さんが悲しんだのは事実なのでしょう。だからその上
It's clear enough that Shirahane-san is sad, so on top of all that...
あいつが可愛がっていた子ウサギが死んだなんて言えなかったってことか。
You couldn't tell the baby bunny she loved so much had died. I wasn't expecting this. I scratched my head, messing up my already disheveled hair.
自分の不手際で病気で死なせたから黙って埋めたとかだったら。
The rabbits had fallen ill and died thanks to her own ineptitude, and she said nothing, burying them herself. On top of forcing her to apologize before their grave, I thought of using this to my own advantage, of getting her to make life at school that much easier for me, but now...
まあ、亡くなったとわかるよりも、今のまま元気でいるかもと思わせておいた方がいいよな。
Well, rather than let everyone know they're dead, it probably is better off that we allow them to believe the bunnies are all frolicking happily somewhere.
ええ。
Yes. She nods, seemingly have no qualms about keeping up the lie. I tell her that I'll make sure to report the symptoms.
それはもう領官に告げたわ。きちんと対処もしてくれるって。
I already informed the house mother. She said she'll deal with it. What needed to be done has been done. Looks like our gun is no longer needed. It wasn't really loaded in the first place. As soon as I think this...
それに
Actually... Lost in the shadows of the setting sun, my ante partner continues the conversation I thought was over.
あ、
Yeah?
もう一つのわけよ。美人が悲しむ姿はあまり見たくない。でしょ？
There's another reason. I didn't want to see such a beautiful girl looking sad, you know?
美人って。
By beautiful girl, you mean...
初めて見た時は驚いたわ。同世代であんなに綺麗な人、見たことがなかったもの。
I was quite startled when I first saw her. I'd never seen such a beautiful person my own age. A faint smile was playing across her lips. I'm completely thrown to hear her expressed interest in another person's looks. No. In fact, I'm thrown to hear her compliment Shirahane like that.
確かに。
It's true, though. A vision of my bookworm buddy comes to mind. There are others here at the Academy who are just as good looking, like Yuzuriya Yatsuhiro and Noreen Komikado. Why haven't they shown up yet? Oh yeah, I know why Yuzuriya isn't here, but... But their beauty is different to Shirohane's. Hers is the kind of beauty that makes you ache deep inside, like a precious childhood memory you have always held dear. Which is why, although she attracts everyone, they can never let themselves get close enough to touch her or speak to her.
真相をみんなへ話さないのね。
You won't reveal the truth to anyone, right? Her words dispel the image of Shirohane from my mind, and I voice my assent.
自分で自分の立場を悪くすることもない。知らぬが仏ってやつだよ。クラスメイトらも知れば、こっちを非難するやつもいるだろうが。
I won't do anything to damage my own reputation. Ignorance is bliss and all that. If our classmates found out about this, some of them would probably blame me.
自分たちが信号を見逃したせいだって苦しむやつも多いだろうしな。
And even more of them would probably blame themselves for overlooking the warning signs. We may be easily swayed by emotion, but I think people are fundamentally good. We dilute the poison by spreading it between everyone, and that's fine. My Amate partner turns her gaze from me and stares down once again at the cut sweet pea flowers lying at the foot of that huge tree.
初めてこいつの人間的な部分に触れた気がしたな。
This is the first time I've seen a human side to her. That's how I now feel about the Amate partner who was forced upon me. This strange, blank girl who never can seem to take a hint.
何？
What?
いや、お前も人間だったんだなってさ。
So you are human. She looks at me despairingly. I hold out my hand to her.
何？
What?
見てわからないか。片手じゃ握手はできないだろう。
Isn't it obvious? It takes two hands to make a handshake.
そうね。
Right. In the dim afterlight, I can't make out her expression.
二人だけの秘密だ。
It'll be our little secret. I say this jokingly as she clasps my hand, but when I see her face... Right, of course. Of course she's affected by this. I feel a sense of shame as she shakes my hand. I'll never be Shirohane. There's a story in Grimm's Fairy Tales called Elder Liula. The dying queen's last request is that her husband never marry, unless it's to a woman who is as beautiful as her. The king searches in vain for such a woman until he finally meets a young woman who resembles his late wife and decides to marry her. To avoid marrying the king, the woman refuses to wed him unless he fulfills several impossible requests. She asks him for a dress as silver as the moon, a dress as gold as the sun, a dress as dazzling as the stars, and a coat made of 1,000 furs. But the king clears every one of her hurdles and pressures her into marriage. Using her magic dresses, the woman is able to escape difficulty time and time again, but... in the end, she doesn't have time to change into her fur coat, and she must become the king's wife. No matter how much she loathed it or tried to come up with another way out of her situation, the fate proved inescapable. The story that begins now is that of another poor girl, the result of reverse events that have already transpired. Next episode, we'll be going into Chapter 2, Alleluia Lula, or however it's said. I can't say it. I am terrible at it. But you know what it is. So yeah, I'm in the episode here. I hope you had fun. And I'll see you on the next one. And see you then. I know I didn't reverse, but oh well.